photograph from the election, like we're staring down into the purest pool of mountain spring water. You can see right to the bottom, 100 feet down. And what we see swimming around down there are globalist eels. The news I'm about to announce is the biggest news we've ever announced here on air, in this crescendo of incredible developments. And information came out last night and this morning, and all the pieces clicked together. But I will tell you this. I am now going to carry firearms at all times, and I normally have the shotguns and things like that in instant access pistol shape by my bed. I'm going to have them even handier now, because the threat level in this country to what is known as the leadership of what's left of the American resistance to the globalist takeover is extremely serious. Now, that said, here is the giant piece of the puzzle that just went in and completed it. President Trump tweeted that with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, the media tries to confuse that, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, safely vote. I totally agree with the president. This is the absolute right move to make. Now, they're going to say he's authoritarian, he's not leaving office. They've had his phones tapped. That's why there's suddenly talking points. He's not going to leave. He's not going to accept the results of the election, because he's being advised by smart people that you cannot allow, in over 25 states and over 800 leftist-controlled cities. I mean, all the cities are leftist-controlled, all of them. There's one that's quasi-Republican out of 800. I mean, we're gone. They've seized control. The UN's in there running, and that's all in the news today. I mean, we're in the New World Order. We've just got a few pockets of resistance in the government left because the American people just don't know how much trouble they're in. But if they're going to have massive election fraud and dead cats are getting their mail-in ballots and their voter registration cards, dead cats, then you have to understand that that is how they're going to engage in an absolute fraudulent election. And the Democrats have said they will, and Pelosi said one way or the other, he's going to be fumigated out of there. He will be gone. They're now saying they'll use the military on him. So if Trump doesn't let them engage in fraud and criminal activity, and he upfront fights them, then they are going to say they're going to remove him from office, and that's why they have all the race warring going on. That's the smokescreen for the overthrow of government and mass murder and a communist uprising, which they are now activating. In just the last week, and we have video, exclusive video, third hour, Millie Weaver got it, inside the Zoom meetings of the Soros-funded organization, where now they're even activating the grassroots high school kids with hammers and telling them to go out and start targeting people. And that's a Maoist plan. You know, the average age was about 12. So we're going to have part 3 of this information today, exclusive video inside their meetings, where they are announcing basically like the Golden Dawn or the Golden Path communist movements. They are changed their name to something similar to that, and are just announcing absolute hell on earth. You think, oh, this is ridiculous, this will be pushed aside easily. No, this is the big mega attack. Everything else was probing so that you don't respond when they finally hit. So they keep calling the firebombings, the shootings, the stabbings peaceful, because they're defining that as peaceful to say that to stand up against it is illegal. They are emasculating and decapitating the security services ahead of the communist overthrow. This is it. America's fighting for its life. The enemy is now attacking. 95 days until the globalists plan to rig the election publicly, but President Trump has now announced a move to postpone the election, to force the Democrats, who are illegally and who are criminally, with giant databases, mailing every home in the country voter registration cards in the name of dead cats, dead relatives, dead people that don't even live there anymore. It's happening all over the nation. And it's illegal. Now, the media plays on the public's ignorance and goes, why, Trump's got his absentee ballot. That's when you're registered. That's when you voted. You've got your absentee. They know who you are. That is not sending people mail-in ballots in the mail or just dumping off huge stacks of them with random names on it all over your streets. They're taking the names of the dead people. They're taking the names of the people that haven't voted for many years that are in nursing homes. They're taking the names of illegal aliens, dead cats, names, period, and putting them on the voter rolls. How do you think the Democrats just won Kentucky? It turned out hundreds of thousands of people who never even voted in the state learned when the database was made public by researchers on this show that they had voted. People who never lived in Kentucky, people who had lived in Kentucky but hadn't lived there in a decade. They didn't just get registered. They voted for the Democrat even though they were Republicans. Millie Weaver broke that information here on air. She'll be with us in the third hour. She went inside one of these organizations, their Zoom meetings, one of the big Soros youth brigades for high school kids. And they're now saying, now is time for violence. Get hammers, go out on the street and start attacking people. You're going to see the video. Now, again, they've got Trump surveilled. They've got spies inside the White House. They know what they're doing. And you see Trump suddenly go, okay, the virus is real. Maybe we do need a lockdown. Maybe we do need to postpone things. I said, what is he doing there? And that's so he goes, okay, then we'll just postpone the election because we're not going to let you just mail all these out everywhere. We need time for the courts to rule, as they've been doing, that you can't do this. And that's why now they've activated their armies of Antifa and BLM that have already probed, that have already tested, they've already branded it, that it's nonviolent to firebomb, to shoot and stab people and kill people. And all of that is just a probing test. And I told you yesterday, you guys give me the law enforcement printout I got. I forgot to get that off my desk. I need that. That they are now preparing squads, death squads in Austin to kill the police and then to go to conservative leaders' homes and kill them and their families. The city of Austin's official budget calls for blowing up the police station as a sign of ending hate. I showed you the official budget. It says we want to accelerate the demolition of the APD headquarters. We want it closed. And we want the police sent for re-education inside other agencies. It actually says we want them sent for education. They call it reconstruct and deconstruct. That's what communists do when they take over. So this has been being planned for a long, long, long time. This has been planned for a long, long, long time. Now, if you're tuning in, that's not satire when I say that they want to blow up the police station. It's not satire when they charge the feds $500 every 15 minutes in Portland because they have a fence up around the building to stop people firebombing it. It's not satire that federal and state judges have ordered the feds to not defend themselves and to let the building be burned down. Now, I have video of this being prepared. We're going to premiere in the third hour. I have federal, state, and local law enforcement sources, but I've already been targeted by this. Tucker Carlson's been targeted. The leader of the Senate's been targeted. And when he complained about it, Twitter suspended Mitch McConnell's account. The president's now being blocked by Twitter. His son was suspended for showing a press conference of medical doctors. 1 year it's Alex Jones, 2 years later it's medical doctors. Just spoke with APD source, and then this is dead on inside. Monday evening, BLM and other anti-police group members were riding around downtown Austin in technicals, pickup trucks with 2 to 4 armed individuals with rifles in the back, stopping cars. That's policing the area. This is Soviet communist-style takeover. Counterflowing, going the wrong way on streets, etc. APD reported on what was happening and wanted to interfere, but were told to stand down unless they started shooting. These trucks were stopping in the middle of the road, intimidating other motors, etc. Rank and file cops were furious. They weren't allowed to act. Also, same guy who was shot and killed attacking the vehicle had been in several other protests down in front of APD headquarters with his AK and had stopped vehicles on the roadway on frontage road. APD cops reported that he was doing that again and were told to stand down. Well, since when does a citizen or anybody or the police have to stand down if you see a crime being committed? That's a crime. Sources say that activity may very well have been captured on the HQ cameras. They're also received intel brief that Antifa and related groups are planning for a takeover of part of Austin like Chop Chaz in Seattle that could happen as early as this weekend. They are calling for additional manpower, the APD, to be ready, but no word so far if the PD will be allowed to act to prevent the takeover, just like in all the other cities. And then you won't see the governor. If the governor will not talk to any of the Republican leaders anymore, he won't talk to the lieutenant governor, he won't talk to anyone. He goes and locks himself in a room and gets orders from the CDC and Fauci, who, again, is running the globalist coup. Fauci's not a doctor. He's a 45-year criminal in the government running the criminal vaccine operation. He helped get vaccine liability for the vaccine companies. He's a eugenicist. And he's involved in all these dangerous drugs that don't help you with COVID-19 and tries to block drugs that do help you. He is a master criminal. Everything he said has been a total lie. But then he says medical doctors should not be allowed to have press conferences. It's actually on screen, folks. He went on MSNBC and said that medical doctors should not be allowed to have press conferences. He said it was good that they were banned and that they don't know what they're talking about. The guy that told you 2.5 million would be dead by now is not even 150,000. So this is it. Trump has to say we're going to move back the election. You've shut everything else down. If you don't stop the mail-in ballots, they have to be declared fraudulent. You cannot allow fraudulent, made-up mail-in ballots that aren't even absentee ballots, that are fake. You have to have time to be able to go over the results and throw out what isn't good. And they're saying if he even challenges any of this, even though massive fraud's coming out everywhere, and there's newscast about thousands of ballots stacked up at people's mailboxes with random names on them all over the country, Florida, Texas, California, Michigan, Pennsylvania. It's happening everywhere. A fraudulent criminal takeover. And so when he does this, they're going to say he's a terrorist. They're going to say he's the bad guy. Does anybody realize the maximum alert? They're making their move. They're making their move. They have armed communist meth heads driving around in pickup trucks, pointing guns at people and shutting roads down and practicing taking control of the city. And when they kill people, the news covers it up. When they shoot people in the head, it doesn't even make the news most of the time. 20-plus cops have been killed in the last few months. You don't know their names, do you? Executed. This is it. Because we're soft, we're compliant, we let convicted pedophiles come and have time with your elementary school children and bounce little boys and girls on their swollen crotches. And we put up with it. So now they're announcing in England, do not fly the British flag, do not fly the King George flag. Finland and others are being told, don't fly your flags. They're now saying they're getting rid of national team names. Nations existing is bad. This is a globalist takeover. This is it. And you're like, well, these are pathetic people. The meth head Antifa types are the lowest level. They've got professors and operatives, politicos above them. And then they've got MS-13, CHICOM teams, and other groups ready to carry out real operations. And they're going to stage massive terror attacks and blame patriots during all of this and then call it a race war. That's why Trump and the Pentagon, unless they want to totally lose the country, are going to have to themselves, in the rightful authority, do what George Washington would do. You know what George Washington would do, President Trump? Decapitate. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. Multinational corporations, above the law robber barons, crony capitalist, post-humanist globalists are launching a communist overthrow of the United States. They're going to launch it whether Trump gets reelected or not, whether Trump postpones the election because of election fraud or not. It's happening. They're not going to stop now. They are actually activating people ages 12 up into adulthood with hammers, with guns, with weapons, with Molotov cocktails. They're going to burn down the police stations. They're going to attack the military bases in an agitprop. And if the military responds, they're going to be called terrorists. And you're going to have Congress come out and condemn our military and our police and say it's wrong. And if they don't respond, they'll just take over. Now, I want to explain something. If you tuned in a long time ago, you noticed I said they're planning a Maoist youth brigade civil war, backed up by real technicians that will actually assassinate people. But with the power plants getting blown up and highways shut down and the rest of it, you'll hear, oh, this talk show host got killed, or this senator's house got blown up, his wife and kids are dead. And they'll say, oh, Patriot militia did it. I mean, it's going to go to a level you've never before seen. They're going to say that patriots have killed black leaders to, again, enrage everything while the globalists are killing the police and burning everything down. That's why they feared InfoWars so much, because I understand the globalists. I understand how they operate. I've seen what they've done in other countries. We know how to stop them. But if you're naive about this, and if people don't get very, very serious about this, we're going to lose everything. And they are going to shut this country down and bring in a decade-long depression until the globalists own every piece of land, every house, everything. And a lot of people are going to give them the money, give them the property. A lot of men are going to line up and bow down as collaborators. They're going to say everything will be peaceful. Just come in and swear your allegiance to the new Sunrise Movement, the new Golden Path. And as soon as the people capitulate in the small towns and the medium-sized cities, and as soon as the farmers capitulate, it's over. We're done. We'll be just like the Russians 1917. It'll take them a year or two to consolidate power. You're going to have to go to war, folks. And we've really tried to not get to this point. I don't want any offensive attacks. But you understand that if they're able to collapse the country, kill the president, and kill the resistance leadership, you are absolutely empowered by the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and God and common sense to understand what you're up against. I know you're not going to submit to these people. But remember, wiping out their low-level minions is not the main target. It is essential that if they start this physical war and they're killing us, it's essential that you go after their leadership. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that means a lot of you that are businessmen, a lot of you that are former military and very serious people, you might be 70 years old. You're going to have to get on that airplane. And you're going to have to go find these people on your mission. And you are totally expendable. Gut up and stop being a coward and get out there and get the job done. Now, we've gone so far down this rat hole now that we're facing a communist uprising, the total destruction of the country, that I'm now having to get on air and just start going in the doomsday switches here, ladies and gentlemen. But everybody already knows what to do. We've tried, we've worked hard, and we are not flat-footed. There's a really good chance we're going to wipe all these people out politically, but they're going to burn things and shoot people and start murdering because they're followers. It's the globalists in Europe. It's the powerful Chi-Coms. It's the old rich families that feel insulated from this, that believe they can have a civil war to finally bring down America, and then China takes over the world politically and culturally. But I just want to tell the Pentagon and the CIA and all you lawyers and people that have been sitting on the sidelines while this happened and allowing this to get to this point, you're your own worst enemies. That you'd let a horrible, dirty, New World Order, technocracy, communist system take over this country, and you would allow the things that have been done to this nation and the destruction of our morals and the collapse of our civilization. You are idiots. You have taken everything we built and flushed it down the toilet because you were followers and you were cowards. And by successive approximation, you gave in to these people and you bowed to them, and then they saw the police all bow to the George Soros, communist, Antifa, and BLM, and they've seen you on your knees. And so now they know they're going to collapse the borders with the third world. They are going to absolutely destroy everything. And so you remember, all you middle class and wealthy people, when you've got nothing and you're disarmed and that you're wishing later you'd done something, you can do something at that point. No more excuses. Nobody stood up brain damage from the vaccines. I mean, people did stand up, but most of us didn't. And so now the wolves have come because we're known as chumps. We're known as stupid. You think the globalists just sent people with pneumonia and flu into nursing homes by accident? They wanted high death numbers. They wanted to see if they could get away with it, and they did. You passed that test too, America. You let them give you fake COVID numbers and tell you 2.5 million would be dead. And everybody keeps submitting, so they look at all those sheep out there and they say, good, we're going to make our move. But here's where the globalists made the big mistake. Here's where the New World Order made the big mistake. It's never a majority that defeats tyrants. It's always a tiny minority of people. And I'm here to tell you, 3% started and won the war against the British, who were angels compared to these New World Order people. And we've got close to 10%. And we've got women who understand that when men cease to be men, women have to pick up that role. And I predict it's going to be women that are going to be stacking dead bodies of these New World Order people up as high as you can stack them. I'm going to tell you, global something, you're dead and you know it. So, you keep pushing, you're going to get everything you want. Because nobody needs guns to win this war. We can beat these people with our bare hands, ladies and gentlemen. When they go to restaurants, and when they go to sleep at night, and when they go for a walk, they're the ones that are going to be hunted. Long after